Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Mr. Speaker.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker.
And thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And where we left off was Conservatives saying this morning that they wanted the bill to pass. In fact, they even chastened the Liberals for not passing the bill. Now, Mr. Speaker, just prior to question period, I asked for unanimous consent to actually move beyond this dilatory motion, delay motion, obstruction motion that the Conservatives have put. What they're asking Canadians to do is pay $70,000, which is the cost of 1 hour of parliamentary time. $70,000 for a parliamentary debate around whether the short title of this bill should be deleted. Now, Mr. Speaker, $70,000 is a lot of money where I come from. And for most Canadian families, $70,000 is in many cases what they earn in a year. And Conservatives have burned that money just in the last hour. So what I did, Mr. Speaker, is I asked for unanimous consent to move to third reading because at this point, report stage, all we're doing is debating the Conservatives' stupid amendment, wacko amendment that simply says, oh gosh, we're going to delete the short title of the bill. There's no substance to it, doesn't improve the bill in any form, doesn't make any difference in terms of the public commission that so many people have been crying out for, that is so badly needed. All it does is delay and cost Canadians $70,000 for each and every hour of this absolutely useless obstructionism, wacko obstructionism from an official opposition that is not a serious party. Now, they had the opportunity to move on that. They had the $1,000 the Conservatives have burned in the last hour. $70,000 of Canadian taxpayers' money. Now, you'll recall, Mr. Speaker, how woefully terrible the Harper regime was in managing money. $116 billion to the banks, the big bank bailout on liquidity supports. $30 billion each and every year. Each and every year, $30 billion given in the infamous Harper tax haven treaties, a sweetheart deal for Canadian billionaires and the most profitable corporations in the country. And the Conservatives just splurged that money because money doesn't mean anything to them. They're terrible financial managers. Conservative financial management is an oxymoron, Mr. Speaker. They are the worst financial managers anyone has ever seen. And the 10 dismal years of the Harper government will remain in infamy. The worst years of financial management in our country's history. Consecutive deficits throughout that period, massive handouts to the banks, massive handouts to the oil and gas CEOs, massive handouts to overseas tax havens. And at the same time, Mr. Speaker, Business Excellence Awards, I have no lessons to learn from any Conservatives in the House. And the reality is, he can consult the fiscal period returns produced by the Ministry of Finance, not a hotbed of social democracy. But the Federal Ministry of Finance over the last few decades produces the fiscal period returns. So what do they say? Well, they say Conservatives and Liberals are terrible financial managers. And the best governments are NDP governments. And year after year after year, the fiscal period returns, which every MP, Conservative, Liberal, or any other persuasion can consult, will show that NDP governments have the best record at managing money and paying down debt. And Mr. Speaker, we do that because we're able to run programs like healthcare and education by not frittering away money like the Conservatives are doing today. $70,000, this debate around this frivolous distraction of deleting the short title of this bill rather than getting on to third reading so we can actually get in place the public.
I thank the Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby. Unfortunately, his time has run out. Questions and comments? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, and I was rather enjoying a good portion of the member's comments. I want to pick up on one aspect when he talks about the short title, because for those that might be following the debate, there is a valid argument to be made that the Conservatives are being nothing more than playing an obstructive role, that even though they say they want the legislation passed, they go out of their way to prevent the legislation from passing. So when the member makes reference to the short title, Mr. Speaker, this is the short title. The short title is this. This is what the Conservatives are proposing to delete. This act may be cited as the Public Complaints and Review Commission Act. They want that aspect of the legislation deleted, Mr. Speaker. I'm wondering if he could provide his thoughts in regards to obstruction that the Conservative Party is playing on such important legislation.
The Honourable Member for New Westminster Burnaby.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And that's exactly the point. It's not only that they want to spend hours and hours debating that one sentence and whether or not we remove it when it has absolutely no impact on the legislation or the Public Complaints Commission. It's that they want to spend. They want to waste. I see the finance critic for the Conservatives in the House right now, and they want to waste $70,000 for each and every hour.
On a ici un rappel au règlement de l'honorable député.
Rising on a point of order, the Honourable Member for Calgary Forest Lawn.
I think that I would just like for you to reflect. I don't think we're allowed to mention who is or isn't inside the chamber.
Oui. Et à cet effet, l'honorable leader.
To that effect, the Honourable NDP House Leader is aware of the standing order. He cannot mention the absence or presence of anyone in this place. He can conclude his reply in a few moments.
They've wasted so far on this meaningless debate and delay tactic. And I think Canadians would say, let's get on with the Public Complaints Commission. Why didn't they accept the UC that I moved prior to question period that would actually allow us to move to a third reading debate on this bill?
Questions et commentaires.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Bruce Grey Owen Sound.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So the member talked a lot about just really restricting or censoring the ability of members in this House to speak and voice their concerns around legislation. So I'm just wondering from him, does he think all members of this House should have an equal right to speak to any bill at any stage of the debate? And if he doesn't, as the House Leader for the New Democratic Party, how does he censor or restrict his members from speaking in this chamber?
Here.
L'honorable député de New Westminster Burnaby.
Thanks very much, Mr. Speaker. I did want to compliment my colleague for his French question a little while ago. I was quite impressed with that. His French is coming along well. The reality is there's no censorship when you're paying $70,000 to debate deleting a one line that has absolutely no impact on the bill. The short title has no impact on the bill itself. This is nothing but a delaying tactic. Now, I point out Conservative hypocrisy. When Conservatives rise in the House and they say, gosh, it's really important this bill passed. Why hasn't this bill passed? And it's their fault that it hasn't passed, that they held up for months of public safety this bill by bringing forward meaningless motions constantly so that we couldn't actually get to the nuts and bolts of the bill. I spoke earlier about the many, many amendments and improvements that the NDP brought as the worker bees of the House of Commons, as the adults in the room. We wanted to improve the legislation so it was better. What did Conservatives want to do? They just wanted to block it. But then if you block legislation, at least step up. Have the guts to say, we've been blocking it for months, and we're going to block it for even more. And Canadians, we don't mind if you're spending $70,000 an hour listening to us debating this meaningless amendment that deletes the short title. At least, if you're going to block legislation, stop good things from happening, at least have the guts to own up to it.